Hi, thank you once more to be with us in the Antitrust Intelligence channel. Today, we have with us Jón Tetzchner, CEO of Vivaldi, who is going to tell us a little bit more about browsers, dark patterns, if you know what is that, and a bit of EU regulation. So first of all, John, thank you for being here with us. Tell us a little bit, what is Vivaldi and why is so important your mission?
Yeah, I mean, Vivaldi is a web browser, and my background coming back from 1994, I've been building web browsers actually, first with the Opera company and now with Vivaldi. And Vivaldi, I mean, we as a company, we focus on the individuals. I guess as a company, we think that we should adapt to the needs of the individuals. So we have a lot of options. We have a lot of features. You'll find things in our browser that you don't find in any other browser. And if you find it in the other browsers, they may have been looking over our shoulders and seen what we've been doing quite more often than not. So we tend to be an innovator in the field. We have a principle that we listen to our users. So instead of looking at what our users are doing, we just listen to what they tell us, what they would like to see in the browser. So kind of more of on the concept of the customer is always right. Or in our words, when in doubt, make it an option. So we'd like to basically tailor to the needs of the individuals. And I mean, we're a Norwegian company with Norwegian Icelandic, I would like to say, in many ways. So we have offices in Norway, Iceland, and the US. With most of the development happening in Norway and Iceland. I think we have a very important role today in many ways because of where the internet is heading. I think we have an important role in also kind of fighting for doing the right thing. I mean, we'd like to see things like regulation related to also data collection and the like. I mean, obviously we're engaged in kind of with the Commission and others with regards to the competition and how they behave with regards to, how they deal with companies like us. But it's also really about kind of what should you as a company be allowed to do, what it is natural for you to be able to do, and we have certain opinions on that as well.
So let me ask you, because obviously almost everyone knows what a browser is, but just to put in context, your competitors are one of the biggest in the world. I mean, Chrome, Edge, Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge. How do you compete with them?
I mean, it's really about the philosophy of seeing what the users want. I mean, yes, our competitors, they're big company. They have distribution that we do not have. They have funding that we do not have. So from that perspective, it really is about winning over users and having them kind of share with their friends and the like. And luckily, there's been quite a lot of nice reviews of us where we get rave reviews from magazines, from YouTubers and from various others that kind of see what we are doing and they're liking what we are making as a company and they like the philosophy of what we are doing. So that's how we really compete. So instead of, we don't have other products that pay for us. We don't have an operating system or a search engine or anything else like that pays. So for us, it's really about basically winning people over one after another and hoping that they share with their friends.
Well, that doesn't sound strange to me, considering that we also started not long ago, and we need to win every client, every customer. So tell me, if you will need to choose one or two features that you said this is why they should use Vivendi, or perhaps others, but why they should come to you.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but if you look at functionality, I mean, for example, we have a lot more functionality when it comes to tabs. I mean, just as an example of taking one feature that matters to people. So if you like to have tabs open, if you have a lot of tabs open, how do you organize that? So, I mean, we have things like tab stacking. And not only do we have tab stacking, so ability to organize your tabs into a hierarchy, but we have a lot of different ways of presenting that. So we have 3 different ways of doing tab stacking. We have something called workspaces to help organize your tabs at a higher level. So you say, okay, I have a set of tabs that are work tabs. I have other tabs that are relating to my next travel. And I don't like to mix that. And then maybe I have some other personal tabs that I keep for themselves. So it's a way of organizing your work. You can then have your tab bar on the left, right, top, or bottom, or you can hide it. It's details like this and a lot of flexibility that is the kind of things that people like. We also have things like, we have tracker blockers and ad blockers included if you'd like to use those. We have the capability to take screenshots of what you're seeing and potentially the whole page. We have a built-in on the desktop side. We have a desktop browser, or should we say a computer browser. We have a mobile browser. We are in cars. So we're in a lot of places. But if you're using on the desktop side, we have a built-in mail client, a calendar, a feed reader. So a lot of things that you don't really find in other browsers at all. We have a way of organizing bookmarks that allows you to have a lot of them. We have a dashboard of where you can have different programs running in small programs running on your dashboard. We have web panels that you can have just about any page easily available to you. So there's really a lot of things that we're doing, but then there's the things that we're not doing, which I think also matters to people. And by the way, we also work with Proton to provide a VPN in our desktop browser as well. So there's just a lot of functionality, but part of this is what we're not doing, and we're not in the business of data collection. So we don't really know what you're doing in your browser. We don't collect that. We have synchronization between the different browsers. So if you have browsers running on multiple computers and mobile phones and in your car, you can synchronize your bookmarks and your tabs and your passwords and the like, going through our servers that are hosted in Iceland. And you utilize a special encryption password which we do not have access to. So we can't read your data. And that's really important to us. We don't want to know what you're doing, basically.
That nowadays that's almost impossible to get. So that's nice to hear. And by the way, Bruce, I didn't introduce you. Bruce is the head of communications at Vivaldi. So please interrupt me anytime you want to say anything or complete one of John's answers. But now we're gonna go to regulation, which is not one of the sexiest topics in the world, but I know that it's something. Bruce, I'm sorry. I mean, we are here. I'm also a lawyer myself, but we know that for some in the audience it might not be the sexiest topic, and yet it's super important for this topic because we know all these features that Vivaldi has and perhaps other browsers. Sometimes don't get to people, and don't get to people because the incumbents or the big companies they do their best to make sure that the default options are theirs. In this case, we have the European Commission and the Digital Markets Act, which impose certain restrictions to the big tech companies. And I know that you've been very vocal about browser choice. So tell the audience a little bit, what's the problem that you find right now, and why do you think the European Commission should intervene?
You want me to take this, Jon?
Sure, if you like.
The reason I suggested that, Aitar, is because I've been with Vivaldi for a year, but I worked with Jon many years ago in a previous organization. And I've been on a solo mission fighting the tech giants. It started as a interesting lockdown project in June 2021. So when Jon saw what I was doing, he asked me to come on board and do it for Vivaldi. But there's two different fights. There's the fight that we're engaged with to make sure that the big tech companies can't steer people towards their own products and away from us. And that is, well, it's about consumer choice, but it's obviously a commercial problem for us. So there's, naked self-interest in there as well. And there's also the regulation of things that Jon spoke about, the things we don't do. So we don't do surveillance capitalism, working out what you might want to do next Thursday and try to sell it to you before you've even thought about it yourself. But we don't do it not because we can't, but because we believe it's wrong. And we believe it's wrong. And for everybody who wants to influence the brand of toothpaste you buy, there's somebody who wants to influence your opinion on immigration or the politics of the Middle East or Islam or whatever the cause célèbre at the moment is. And we, both Jon and me as individuals and the people who work at Vivaldi, but organizationally, we believe that it's fundamentally wrong for the big tech corporations to make massive profits by attempting a societal level manipulation of public opinion. We've seen it in the UK with Cambridge Analytica potentially manipulating the Brexit results. I'm pretty sure you've had similar discussions internally in the Spanish-speaking world, ditto in the States. So those are our main fights. And yeah, it's mostly just me and Jon on behalf of Vivaldi, so we get around. But I'm going into battle in Brussels on Thursday when we're going to meet the Commission and Microsoft, who of course are desperate for users to remain with Microsoft Edge.
But then you would say, because and forgive me my perspective always here, but I always go to the numbers and to the financial aspect, right? And from my point of view, it's always like a financial battle. Like you get more users, more funding, more. But you're telling me just the other part of the story. Like it's not about that. It's about a more deeper concerns, which, from my point of view, I'm not sure if the EU regulation, for example, the Digital Markets Act that we are talking about, is that a good tool? Because when we talk about, sure, keeping Microsoft users within the Microsoft environment and ecosystem, we talk about, the Digital Markets Act, how you can keep them, whether you're a gatekeeper or not. But these deeper problems about what do you do with the data and how you can influence people's choices beyond the browser, do you think that they also should fall under the European Commission's radar?
I think they're probably more to do with the nascent Digital Fairness Act, which is dealing with consumer choice. Because when you talk to consumers and say, how happy are you that Meta, Google, et al. Collect all your data? Everybody says, no, I'm not happy. And we've seen that if you go to people and say, what have you allowed Facebook to collect about you? People don't actually know what they have allowed. Whether that's because people are ill-informed or whether that's because a large tech behemoth has a vested interest in deceiving people, I couldn't possibly comment. But I think that users don't understand what they might be opting into. And that's a matter of consumer fairness. So I think the Digital Fairness Act is a good venue for that. But this week it's the Digital Markets Act, because of course Microsoft tries to stop competitors. And this isn't just naked interest. We are one of the founding members of the Browser Choice Alliance, which is an informal coalition of Vivaldi, Wavebox, which is a paid browser out of Wales in the UK, Waterfox, which is a privacy-focused browser based on the same core as Firefox, Chrome and Opera. We're all going to the Commission together because we want to be able to compete on a level playing field. Some people will love Vivaldi, some people won't, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's unfair that Microsoft on Microsoft Windows will steer people to Microsoft Edge so they can steer people to Microsoft Bing so that Microsoft can get the advertising dollars. Microsoft should have a level playing field on its Windows operating system and not self-preference. And the same with Apple and to a lesser extent, but similarly with Google and Android. Jon, do you got anything to add to that, sir?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, I mean, for me, this is something that has been a focus since the very early days, since I started working with Opera, right? I mean, very early in my career, there was the Netscape case. And I mean,
years ago.
that's years ago, but it tells you that this is not a new problem and it hasn't really been solved fully. And typically what happens is that when there's focus on big tech, then they think twice at the very least about what they're doing. And that's kind of what we saw with Microsoft all those years back with the Netscape case. Now there was discussion of dividing them into different companies and the like, which didn't happen. But at the same time, there was a group of people that was actually following what they were doing. So competitors like us could actually go and talk to someone about the issues. That didn't really stop them from doing a lot of bad things, but it still probably stopped them from doing some. And the problem has always been Microsoft wants to lock you in. They don't really want you to have free choice. They want you to, obviously, Edge is included with the operating system, but they also want to warn you on the way to download another browser, whether the warnings are in the operating system, in the browser that you need to use to download, or in the search engine or the like. I mean, there's a lot of places. And then when you download the browser and want to set it as default, there will be more warnings. And again, I mean, to be fully installed as a browser, you expect to be there in the dock, and you expect to be able to be default. And Microsoft is making all of those things really difficult. Now, we believe that there should have been a choice screen on Windows, and sadly, there isn't. But this is the kind of things that we have to deal with. And I mean, Bruce mentioned other operating systems, and there are problems on all of them. All of these companies, they do things which is difficult. I mean, the reason why Vivaldi doesn't identify as itself when connecting to web servers is because if we do, then we get blocked by certain services that our competitors make. There's the issue on iOS that we are not able to build the browser from scratch. We have to use WebKit as a core. There's a lot of things like this that probably people don't see, and because our competitors are so strong, they don't only have the operating systems that we run on, they own the search engines that most everyone is using, and then they own very important services that people are using. And if any of those are blocked or make it harder to use our browser, then that's a problem. So this is an issue that I've faced since 1994, since starting working with browsers all those years back, and it continues to be the same. And I think, in a way, what is visible with regards to how these companies behave also applies to the data collection, where kind of the user seemingly doesn't matter. Again, Microsoft wants to push you to use their services, but they also kind of very quickly push you into directions that include data collection and the like. I mean, and that's not just them; it's the other companies as well. And whether that should be regulated through the Digital Markets Act, the Digital Service Act, the Digital Fairness, I mean, that's a technicality for me that is not a lawyer.
No.
It's more about, okay, we need to do something about those things, and for us, I mean, this is not just about funding or finance and the like. I mean, as a company, we're a little bit different, right? with the old company that I ran with Opera, I built that company up, and then I got disagreement with investors, and then the company went into a different direction than I would have liked. So in the case of Vivaldi, we don't have external investors. We don't want external investors. The reason why we are doing what we are doing is we want to do something positive for the world, whether it's just providing a better browser for end users, or if we
just got frozen.
No. Well, I mean, it may have escaped your notice, Aitar, but Jon and I are actually middle-aged fellas, middle-aged men. I know we look in the first flush of youth,
and I think it needs regulation.
but sorry, Jon, you broke up, so
Oh.
I continued your train of thought. But we're old enough to remember the original promise of the internet, which was it was going to liberalize, democratize. It was going to be a space where people could speak freely, etc. And we want that back.
Yeah. So let me ask you a very simple question and very difficult to answer. How you fix that? Because for what you are telling me and for what I see, also not only we were talking about Microsoft, but Google, Apple, this is like kind of whack-a-mole game that you just fix one and then there's another and then you fix it and there's another. And these usually are not very visible problems. As you mentioned, it's something that you face as a in this case, a provider of a browser, but it could be a video game or an app application developer. I mean, how you fix all these small problems that probably are happening all the time. Regulators probably didn't hear about that, or even if they did, they seem small. How you fix it, if can be fixed?
In my opinion, things like the Browser Choice Alliance, where it's a loose confederation of small browsers facing up against, great big trillion-dollar market cap companies. The EU is the perfect venue for that because the EU is basically a confederation of small nations that have understood that working together is the best way to defeat it. I'm British, so of course I'm not in the EU anymore, which is a different subject. And
you will be back. You will be back. Don't worry.
I personally will be as soon as possible. But I think EU regulation and ex-ante regulation, so ex-ante regulation that prohibits certain behaviors and doesn't require every infraction to go to court, as it seems to be in the US, which can take years and, of course, favors the people with the largest bank balance, is the answer. The DMA is imperfect, but it's a reasonably good tool. We just want to see it enforced adequately.
And let me ask you both this last question, and of course you can add afterwards anything you want. Do you think that we feel, and especially the last weeks, I read some notes that there started to be this movement, perhaps a small movement in Europe to buy European, to go for European firms. I just read about Germany, and I believe was a municipality in Sweden or Norway, I'm not sure, that they decided to ban some of the products from the big tech and go local. Do you think that's is gaining momentum and you could benefit from that, or is really really difficult to implement given the size of obviously countries?
Well, I think, we are definitely seeing an impact, and the country you were thinking of was Denmark.
Denmark, correct.
But yes, there are people that would like to be less reliant on big tech, and in a lot of ways, the focus then are there European companies that can be chosen instead? But whether it's European or just getting away from big tech, in either way, people are looking for alternatives, and I think that's positive because I think we have to remember that big tech is in a position that they're really holding on to users. They're in a rather specific position that they try everything they can to reduce the level of choice there is, and part of that is creating incompatibilities and the like. So I think we need regulation to deal with that, but I also think people get a little bit of a push that they actually want to look for something else. And obviously, we know how it works. It may give you a push to try us out, but we still have to deliver. And that's up to us to provide you with a great browser and great services, and hopefully you'll stay with us. And we have been seeing growth in certain countries in Europe in particular this year, where people are looking for alternatives. And again, we welcome users, whatever reason they come to us.
Any country that you see the highest rate of adoption right now?
I mean, we saw, as an example, we've seen a double in Norway, which is our home base. We've seen a double in Denmark. And we've actually seen, I mean, very significant 20, 30, 40, 50% in a lot of European major countries so far this year. So, and again, I mean, people are looking for alternatives. They are fed up with big tech. They're fed up with just being dealt with as a product themselves. So people are looking for something that is different, and we're trying to do the right thing. And I think in a way we are the right company with the right product at the right time from that perspective.
So definitely, I wish you the best, and I will actually download myself to try, because I have to say I haven't tried, but after this conversation, I would love to try all these features that you mentioned. One last minute, any last thought, remark you would like to make?
Jón?
Yeah, I think, like I said, I mean, it's a very important time today, and you were asking, by the way, you were asking questions about kind of how to deal with, how to regulate this and the like. And when it comes to data collection and the like, I've had a different opinion, because I think we have to go a lot further than regulators have been willing to do. And I think the difficulty is that the regulators are always facing the fear that they over-regulate and that they stifle innovation. And there's a lot of, said to say, funding fighting the idea that you should regulate. But I think what people want, they want to see regulation. And personally, I believe we just need to go very far. I think we need to say that it needs to be illegal to profile users and utilize that content for advertisement purposes and for algorithms. I think that would, meaning content algorithms that decide which content you see. So if you're basically not allowed to make profiles on end users, that will change some business models for the better. I think actually it will bring the ad models more to the likings of what people would want to accept. I think a lot of people have become angry with how ads are working on the internet because of all the tracking. So if it's possible to see a change where we kind of go back 12 years with regards to advertisement technology and say, okay, we follow the principle of content-related ads. I think that's better ads and more acceptable to the end user. And again, I also think that this would help with the division in society that comes from people getting different content based on an algorithm that is looking at their data. So I think this is important, and we really think that as people start to understand how big a part of this is of the division in society, that, I mean, people are always looking for reasons, kind of why are we suddenly so divided? But I think basically the social media algorithms and the like are a big part of that. And I think once we realize that, maybe we will do the regulation that is needed.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. So, Jón, Bruce, thank you very much for being with us. Good luck in Brussels this week. And I hope to speak to you soon and see what comes after that.
Anytime.
Anytime.
Thank you very much.